Hi, good morning and good evening to everyone. Welcome to GAVS Technologies webinar on supercharging your ITSM with AI with service reliability. Thank you for taking your time to participate and listen to the discussion. I am Gauri Mahendru and your moderator for today. So the purpose of today's session is to discuss why you should look at the combination of AIOps and ITSM and how proactive IT operations led by predictive insights will enhance the overall end user experience. I am very excited about today's session as I'm a big advocate of IT service operations with AI. Let me introduce to our panelists for today. We have Tony O'Neill as our first speaker. Tony is an Associate Vice President of IT Infrastructure at Mr. Cooper, one of the largest home loan suppliers in the country. He is an accomplished technology leader with more than 20 years of experience in integrating technology and business to maximize service delivery, consistency, and productivity. He leverages expertise in NOC operations management as well as leads diverse teams across multiple geographies. He has been using ZIF for quite some time, an AIOps platform from GAVS, and will be sharing his experiences with ZIF. Let me also welcome our second panelist, Ryan Counts. Ryan is a senior solution consultant at Cherwell ITSM Software. He has tremendous 20 years of experience on both customer and vendor side in IT monitoring and service management space. He enjoys helping organizations develop a strategy for improving their approaches to IT service management and enterprise service management. And our third panelist for today is Anup Arvindakshan. Anup is a principal consulting manager at GAVS Technologies, vastly associated with GAVS IP Zero Incident Framework, prominently known as ZIF. He has been a business strategist who has immense experience of over 15 years in planning and managing multi-million-dollar projects, aligning business goals with technology solutions to drive process improvements, competitive advantages, and bottom line gains. So thank you so much to our panelists for taking time today, and welcome, gentlemen. As you can see from their bios, this is going to be a lively conversation today. Now, before we start the discussion, I would like to put a poll question for the audience here, and you should be seeing it on your screen now. All right, so the question is, are you using AI ML in your IT operations today? So are you using artificial intelligence or machine learning in your IT operations today? So your options are, you're not leveraging that, you're exploring or experimenting, you have implemented, and you have matured IT Ops Center of Excellence. So let's give a couple of seconds here for the results to pop in. You can start putting up your options. So the question again, are you using artificial intelligence and machine learning in your IT operations today? The results should be up any second now. All right, let us now see the results. So maximum 58% of our audience has responded that they have been exploring and experimenting with the AI and machine learning, but maybe it is not implemented fully and matured to the greatest extent. I would say that whether you're ready or not, AI is coming to IT operations. And the bigger question isn't where AI ops will revolutionize IT operations or not. It is actually how long the rest of the fields will take to recognize that the shift has already started happening. All right, so attendees, I would also like to inform you that you can post your questions anytime during the discussion in the chat window provided in the Click Webinar control bar. With that, I would like to go ahead and start talking to our panelists. So Anu, before we start deeping dive into how organizations are using AIOps, I would like to ask you a couple of questions. And these are pretty rudimentary questions as I want to set up the stage for our discussion. Now, during these pandemic times and as business trudges back to normalcy, we know that it is extremely important to ensure high service reliability to strengthen the bottom line. So could you explain what is service reliability and how does it differ from service availability?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. And thanks for that start, Gauri. So availability and reliability has been a hot topic in today's industry. And at times, people do really confuse themselves between both these terminologies. But to put it in very simple context, availability is a measure or an ability for a service or a device to be operational when needed, right? But reliability is a measure or an ability of a service or an application or a device to perform its intended function for a specific interval of time without any failure. So that's the key difference. And in today's world, having applications or services to perform the expected reliability or give the real reliable service to an end user has always been a pain point. Even in all of us would have experienced these kind of scenarios. Say, for example, when I go to my banking website, and if the banking application is all up and I'm able to see I'm able to log into the application, but the moment I try to do some transaction on the web page, which say, for example, a fund transfer, that particular service is not available for me in the sense that there are some issues that's happening wherein I'm not able to complete that transaction end to end, and I get an error message, right? So no matter whether that application is still available, but my intended service that I had requested for was not available. So that actually turns down the customer experience or the end user experience, right? Where actually it hits the bottom line of the organization or the enterprise, right? So that is the biggest pain point that today's industry is tackling. And the only option that I see where if industries have to tackle such scenarios, they'll have to do a lot of analytics on the diverse data that they would have collected across the enterprise. And in order to do that or to do the analytics on top of that, artificial intelligence is the only way. With the power of the compute and this availability that we have in today's world, the only way to identify the hotspots within those servers that is actually causing those issues or failures and trying to remediate that, you would have to go with artificial intelligence or machine learning to identify the hotspots.
Right, very well said, Anup. And to quickly summarize whatever you have said, and what you're saying is with the increasing demands of 24/7 uptime and the complexities of the modern IT landscape, it is not only important to ensure that your application or the service is available all the time, it is also important that it should be reliable enough that it do the intended function that it is supposed to do.
Absolutely, you're right.
Thank you so much. So I would like to move to Tony now to understand. Tony, you have been using AIOps in your enterprise command center from quite a bit now. So when did you decided, or how the organization should decide to transform themselves from a legacy operations to AI-led operations management?
On those, I think it sits down to see the response as a whole when you're starting to look at your organization and how quickly you can respond or reliably react to different scenarios. So in the case of multiple individual teams that do different monitoring or different support, you've got to have a way to actually take all those diverse input pieces of data and consume it. And from there to also be able to drive in predictive analytics and anomaly detection from that data. And I say take those monitoring sources as well as like your relationship databases to drive it. And really in today's environments with the complexity of where things are sitting at hybrid environments or completely in the cloud, the ability to actually do those types of things really becomes a key to be able to drive it, other than having really mature individuals sitting at the desk doing that, or being able to leverage systems that will help you be able to be successful monitoring and responding. And I think that's really the key, is where MLI, machine language and artificial intelligence has a key role in play.
Yes, and by enhancing service reliability, how did your organization and IT team in the business, it helped you really? I mean, if you can share some of its key benefits.
To me, the key benefits around that we see is definitely improved reliability of the systems. So, improving uptime, driving down the mean time to repair, those types of things are really key in being able to trigger this, because you can quickly identify root cause, anomaly detection before it becomes an issue. Leveraging ZIF, you can also do self-healing. So from very prescribed SOPs, if things trigger, you can actually self-heal and automatically respond to those things faster than an individual could. And that's some of the things that we definitely look at and leverage. And I think the key, our first big project that we implemented that was in our Citrix environment, and we increased the reliability of the Citrix farm itself and reduced the need for human intervention significantly.
Awesome. And you spoke about increasing the uptime, and you also spoke about that remediation and self-healing. So when we are talking about these terms, can you also share your views around artificial intelligence and machine learning in the space of service reliability?
Sure. I say that data points that you're taking in from multiple monitoring systems or multiple sources of data, it definitely goes into a big data lake, and the ability for the algorithms to actually go in, consume that data, and then come up with an answer to quickly allow for your teams to be able to respond, and whether it be the NOC or at the service desk level, being able to have and consume that data is really the key. And I think the game changer in this environment is definitely AI and machine learning to be able to do that. And really, if you think about it from a cost savings perspective, you could either have senior people sitting on the desk focused on trying to monitor and respond to those things, or you can have systems that do that function and can learn as they go.
Totally agree, Tony.
Yeah, and I believe, Tony, you would also, the true power of AI really comes out when it's able to self-learn what's there in that data lake, right? And able to give those insights back to the IT operations team.
100%.
And that is not only limited to IT industries anymore. I mean, AI is going to permeate every job sector in the future. We have seen it in data mining, analysis, software development. We have seen it in program management and testing as well. So it's a very long way ahead.
True.
Right. So I want to discuss a little bit about the IT teams, as Tony was talking about the service desk and command center folks. So Ryan, during the time of escalating demands for peak performance issues, how do you and how do the service desk engineers, being at the front line of serving the business, they gain by automating the service operations, which impacts their day-to-day job?
Oh, there's huge potential gains around that. I mean, one, the AIOps is going to be providing insights into, what are the actual critical issues that we need to be focusing on. So that's a lot of it right there, is instead of where previously we had monitoring tools that told us about every single event that occurred, let me focus on the ones that are actually impacting user performance and in their experience. It's also going to provide better insights into how can we quickly remediate those particular issues. So that's going to help me deliver a better customer experience, so we'll have higher customer satisfaction. And then as AIOps and machine learning mature and we start identifying some self-remediation opportunities, we're going to be able to reduce the workload on those service teams. So they're really only focusing on reviewing, making sure it did resolve the issue, and ultimately not even need to touch it. So a zero touch kind of incident.
Yeah.
Sure.
Definitely. And I do see a little chart that you have on the screen right now where it clearly represents that AI is not going to take any of IT operations job. It is only going to reassign those headcounts to better tasks. Instead of, spending time on the mundane and repeated activities, we can spend those resources and our folks on the better, make the utilization a little better there. That is the,
Absolutely. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, there's so much that IT could be doing to help grow the business, but unfortunately, we're spending too much of our time and our budgets on remediating issues and reacting to the IT environment. So, if we imagine, the cost per ticket as we've got up on the slide here, as a ticket gets higher up in the chain and gets to level 2, level 3 support and beyond, we're just exponentially increasing the costs to the organization. Well, what if instead AIOps is helping resolve that much lower in the chain? So my level 2, level 3 experts are really spending their time on business driving projects where they're helping generate more revenue for the organization.
Right. So you spoke a very, in a nutshell, we actually are saying that as the ticket moves from a level 0 to the next level of level 2 or level 3, the cost of ticket keeps on increasing, but even the time to resolve that particular incident will also keep on increasing. So when we put all these machine learnings and automated, we'll make our operations into automated stuff. This is actually gonna bring up the whole user experience.
Absolutely.
So I would also like to know here, you have been associated with Cherwell from a quite long time. And with respect to integrating ZIF with Cherwell, do you want to talk about how does artificial intelligence and machine learning help changing the workflow for a standard service desk process and responding to incidents?
Okay, certainly, yeah. So there's a number of different areas that we're going to help. So one, I've seen that, uh, uh, if we think historically about, helping that service desk respond to ongoing issues faster and more effectively, well, the first part is identifying those issues. So in the
Right.
past, we had a lot of monitoring tools that were just flooding the service desk with false positives. So they'd tell the ops team, turn it off. I'll wait until I get a customer to complain. We went through a phase of event management was a big thing, and everybody was spending thousands of hours building all these complex rules to try to isolate things, and even that didn't really work. It required a lot of ongoing maintenance, a lot of configuration work, and the service desk was still complaining that they were getting a lot of false positives. So with AIOps, we now have an ongoing means for the platforms to really start identifying what are the actual critical events that we should actually be responding to, because they do actually impact my customer experiences. So, for one, let's reduce the number of incidents that we're automatically raising to that service desk. That's going to help a huge amount. The second part is by, classifying these incidents automatically through AIOps and machine learning, so that we're routing it to the appropriate team faster. So instead of it going to a basic first tier who's going to have to evaluate it and hopefully route it to the network team or the ops team or the application team where appropriate, if we can get it to those teams on the first step, we've already eliminated quite a bit of time right there. And then, as part of that, using that machine learning to also look at our history of what have we done to resolve this in the past, and let's promote those learnings earlier in the cycle of that service so we can resolve it faster and ultimately identify good candidates for, hey, this has consistently resolved this issue. Why don't we go ahead and take the next step and automate that resolution and continually improve those performance. So pretty much from start to finish from that ticket, machine learning has the opportunity to consolidate timelines and make everybody's life a lot easier.
Right. Definitely. And this is in the event management process that you were explaining, it not only takes a longer time to handle the flood of alerts that comes and making sense of them, but it also requires the time of the tools guy who is at the back end, who has to do all the configurations. What are the set of thresholds I need to set? What are the set of monitoring do I need to keep in place? And that requires a lot of manual time. A lot of time and effort gets spent there. And
to your point, 2 months afterwards, we make a simple code change to the frontline application, and all those roles are blown out. So,
and absolutely, and that's a repetitive cycle. It keeps on going on. There will be a dedicated guy who will be working throughout all his time to just make the configurations right for the customer.
absolutely.
So Anup, we spoke about machine learning here, and Ryan also shared his thoughts on how does getting all the knowledge that we have acquired in the past, doing all these set of activities, we can, give it to the system where machine learning. How do you want to share how does machine learning adds value to the incidents that are created in ITSM tool?
Oh, sure. So Zero Incident Framework as a platform has already partnered with Cherwell, and we have our mmap already listed on Cherwell's application store. So which typically what it does is it helps any incident that is getting created within Cherwell. There are insights that's been driven out of those data that's getting passed into it, right? So information like who could be the best fit technician to resolve such an incident, right? So Ryan rightly spoke about the triaging, where it goes to an L0, and then somebody identifies it has to go to an L1, and from there it goes to an L2. So the time it takes and the cost that is spent till it reaches the right person, that entirely is now eliminated with the help of this virtual supervisor or intelligent triaging that we call as from Zero Incident Framework. So as soon as the incident is in the tool, it automatically knows who needs to go and fix it based on his workload, his skill set, and the date and time when it came into the system, various parameters. So that's one. Then there is another key feature which is called the estimated time to resolve. So what ZIF again does is it takes the historical data, it looks at who's working on that particular ticket, and it it gives a notification saying this is the approximate time it's going to really take to fix this particular issue. So now what happens is the end user, probably, let's say, for example, who's been impacted by a service or impacted by a incident, he really gets a notification saying that he's going to, this particular resolution is going to take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 2 days. And he's well informed about the time it's going to get it resolved, right? So that's the most important thing. Having your end users informed really increases your end user experience also. So that's another key feature. And the third one that we have over there is the sentiment analytics. So when there are issues or incidents that's happening within Cherwell, there are a lot of conversations that happen between the engineers as well as the end users, right? And all of those are being passed into the sentiment analytics engine, which derives a sentiment score, wherein the flow manager who's actually managing the IT operations, he really knows how his team has been performing or reacting to the incidents that's happening within the ecosystem. So now, based on those insights, he's able to give them coaching, train them, or move them to the next level. Based on those insights, this platform, this integration is able to give. So the integration with ZIF and Cherwell has been helping a lot, and we've seen this on grounds with most of our implementations with Cherwell and ZIF together, right? So this is really helping them to move up the ladder from an IT operations perspective.
Thank you, Anup. This was very well explained, and you mentioned a lot about how having a virtual supervisor in place, which in turns, what it does for IT operation teams is you do not have to spend time on assigning the issues to engineers.
Right.
You do not have to spend time on getting back to the user, letting him know that the issue has been fixed. That all has been taken care of. So
absolutely.
How does there is one still a parameter that is left, Anup. Can you also tell me how does ZIF supports and maintains and actually ensures that the thresholds are being met, because the IT operations would have their SLAs and KPIs in place, and that will be across several applications and resources. So can ZIF also help in that?
Absolutely. So the point that Ryan brought out, right? So there is a person who keeps changing the thresholds every time there is some code change or a line change in the application. and 2 months down the line, he'll have to go back to his desk again to do those changes to meet those thresholds. So within ZIF, with the help of machine learning algorithms, we have built a dynamic threshold identification. So what that typically does is it identifies the patterns, it identifies the outliers, and it automatically knows when an application goes beyond a particular outlier, it starts flagging those. So you really don't need to have thresholds defined in an application or be it in a server or any device, right? So this eliminates that entire whole process. And that's where exactly machine learning is helping the organizations. Because now if I know that my application, this is the behavior, and it learns again from the history. So from the history, it learns what's the outlier, and that outlier is being detected, and then it automatically gets set for all those rules flagging and the incident creations. So with the help of this, there is patterns that is getting learned. The system learns how every application behaves. And in today's world, with the impact of the high usage of compute and all that, no server or no application just goes down like that, because everybody works on clusters, everything is deployed on hypervisors. So there aren't anything which actually impacts a server, but what impacts is the performance of a, say for example, if an application is deployed on 10 clustered server, and if there are, let's say, 3 or 4 goes down, the performance of the application gets impacted, but the application as such doesn't really get impacted, right? So those are things that needs to be identified by these algorithms, and these algorithms which detect the dynamic thresholds and dynamic patterns from those thresholds is what really gets out into the system. And what we have also added into the platform is the deviation percentage. So what it does is typically, if a system, let's say consistently, there is a metrics that says that it's been performing at 20%, but that really does not mean that just because it goes out into 21 or 25, it's really going to have an impact. So there is something called as a deviation outlier, wherein end users can actually define those deviation layers. They can say that anything that's beyond 30% or 40% of deviation from your dynamic threshold is when you'll have to really generate an alert. So much of customization or configurations are available within the platform, which actually helps the end users to also make use of ZIF as a platform rather than a product. So that's how we have designed and architected that as part of the zero incident framework.
Thank you, Anup. I actually took 2 things from your explanation here. One, you were talking about outliers and the deviations that we have set. So what I'm seeing here is the process improvements that people do traditionally through, implementing lean projects or Six Sigma or other quality initiatives that they do. That also depends on the same thing. They set up their outliers and they set the upper and lower specification limits.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You got it. Yeah.
Right, and that is being done by the tool here. So
yeah.
Again, there is another point that has been removed from the human setup. And
right.
The second thing that you were saying, Anup, was regarding the dynamic thresholds. So is there a static threshold as well?
Yes,
because
that
is there in the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that static thresholds is also a configurable parameter within the platform. A few organizations and few IT teams still would want to go with static threshold for specific reasons, right? Say, for example, if there is not too much of agility within that application or the device, then they prefer to go with the static threshold. So that's why we have both the options, and it's up to the IT operations team to choose which one they would want to use.
All right. So we have spoken about boosting our standard event handling and the service desk process with machine learning, and AIOps being in the place is the ultimate solution, for the handling the floods of alerts. And okay, so here on the screen, I'm seeing a very catchy title that business outcomes is all that matters.
Sure.
So Tony, I would like to understand from you, from a business perspective, how does Zero Incident Framework supported you in making sense of all this huge operational data and making it into a business understandable and actionable insights?
Sure. So I think machine learning is definitely the best way to process these large amounts of data and really do it in a timely fashion that allows you to have an impact on the business and to drive improvements in service reliability. if I think about it, we're taking various sources of data, and that's relationships, that's monitoring systems, that's just performance monitoring, that includes your standard synthetic traffic stuff, all of those other types of event data, being able to correlate that down and being able to look at it. And if you think about how the complexity of how our environments are set up, you have load balancers, you have web tier, you have an application tier, you have database, you have API calls. And this tool allows you to actually go in and trigger and find out the more significant trigger points. So allow you to focus on more the root cause areas of support versus going in there and looking at all of the different alerts and trying to dig through it manually. So that's the key to being able to drive down how quickly you can respond to events. And if you think about it, it's the mean time to restoration of service. And those types of things are really key. And I think Anoop and those guys have, when he spoke about as well, is also allows you to focus on the degradation of service pieces. So if you have a single service that fails on just one of your cluster, and being able to then have that event trigger and actually do some self-healing to resolve that too. So I think those are the key pieces and insights that we find here.
Thank you, Tony. You were earlier talking about having the platform implemented in your Citrix farm. So can you also shed some light on the significance of its role in terms of cost optimization or avoiding or reducing the business risk?
Yeah, it really on those, if you think about it, those are again a huge clustered environment where people are spinning up, either Zen app or a Zen desktop that's significantly needed for either the call center, a vendor, or a third-party person, or your normal IT people that are needing to access systems, and they're logging into these different things, and you want them to not just that I can log in and connect, but that the applications that I'm going to leverage in there will work, and being able to have these types of data consumption, and then I think tying on or building on the self-healing pieces allows you to drive that. And I think the key driver there is, from a business perspective, you think about cost savings and what does this do for us, besides the improvement for just being able to enable the business to do the tasks that they're wanting to do and leveraging of our systems that we're supporting. It also allows for a shift left. And I think each of the panelists have kind of talked about it, but in here, we think a shift left is shifting down in the tier. So shifting from a higher level individual down to a lower level response. And the lowest at the very is like level 0, which is the self-healing stuff. This empowers you the ability to do that, and shifting that workload and the response down to the lowest possible to first improve how quickly you can respond to it. And the other is to free up that senior resource to actually focus on business enabling tasks or project work and the higher value things that they really should work on, that allows the business to continue to move and empower the business to be able to deliver for their customers.
This is awesome, Tony. Knowing your first-hand experiences and that you're vouching for how the business integrated with technology can yield significant amount of business value and outcomes, this is really awesome to know. Further, I would also like to know, you have been doing service management before ZIF actually came into picture, and was there from your viewpoint, I would like to know, how was it different from that traditional service management to the new set of operations that you have?
So for us, I think on the maturity model, we're still not 100% there, but I think being able to quickly identify and drive those types of key alert details and significant response is definitely moving that needle, and allows us to be more focused on what are the key deliverables and the key responses that we should focus on versus all of the noise. And I think the key thing there is you can't find where a fire starts in a forest without being able to see it. And it gets all lost and everything else. You see the smoke from the fire, but you don't know where it's actually started.
Right.
And being able to focus on that, the AI and machine learning allow you to do that.
Definitely. Thank you, Tony. All right, so I would like to move further and when people talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning, there is always a concern on the learning time and that the algorithms will take a way longer time to learn the patterns and act. So how does ZIF is different from all of the other platforms that are available in the market? And also, if you can talk about how do the algorithms support the organizations from the day one?
Okay. Yeah, that was the case. I would say at least a few years back, let's say a couple of years back, where you always wanted a set of training data before you get into your production, right? So what we normally used to do in those days was we used to collect a bunch of historical data from the organization where we would implement it. Then we would train our models with that historical data, and then we would deploy it into production. But thanks to unsupervised learning as well as reinforcement machine learning algorithms, in today's version that we have currently that we support, we wouldn't really need any historical data to train these models. So the platform starts learning from day one, and it starts improving its accuracy on the insights that it's actually displaying to the IT operations team. So what eventually it does is, if I deploy this platform, let's say tomorrow in an organization, it picks up all the data, it learns how the system has actually performed for that particular day. With that information, it starts to give insights for tomorrow, and hence why it just keeps doing the same. But what matters here is the accuracy, right? So the accuracy that you might get on day one would be really low, but let's say after a week or two, you would start seeing that accuracy really goes higher. So the more the data and the learning it has done, it starts to learn. So that's the power of unsupervised learning algorithm. And in those periods, it was very tough to run these kind of algorithms in a very small setup or a small compute system. But in today's world, even that has been taken off. So we are now able to even do a large volume transactions using streaming, using batch processing and all that. And we're able to deliver that from day one itself. So the learning curve for the algorithms have been totally plateaued out, and you don't really need those number of historical data points, or you don't need the number of days from a history period to really teach the algorithm. So that's been a big curve from where we were and what we are doing right now.
That is amazing. Thank you, Anup. And okay, so Ryan, from talking about all these benefits that AIOps brings into picture, and as people have spoken about that, how the incident mean time to resolve will get reduced, and issues will be resolving better and faster. Would you like to also share your viewpoints on how does the integration for Cherwell as an ITSM software brought up the scale of IT operations in terms of when AIOps gets implemented to it?
Okay, interesting question. So we've already covered on a number of ways. So Tony and Anup have both made some excellent points around that. So part of this, I want to kind of bring up one other area that I'm not sure we've directly attacked, and that is what I call the blame game. An incident comes in, and back in the day, everybody blamed everything on storage. It's got to be them.
Right.
It's got to be, and we lose a lot of time with teams having to basically defend themselves. That no, it's my board's all green. It's got to be somebody else. So at the very least, being able to isolate to what layer in the application stack we've got the challenge, being able to pre-assign that to the appropriate teams, we're slashing a huge amount of time right there. Furthermore, as we start leveraging those automations, we'll start with human oversight of those automations. Let's verify that it did resolve the issue, build our confidence in it until we can basically reach a point where we're comfortable handing off automatically. So that's going to steadily decrease that mean time to resolution as we go through. And then also, helping us, really isolate what our workflow should be like for these kinds of activities. So boiling up how we've solved this in the past, and rather than search through a keyword search of a knowledge base, what if we just push that up to the engineer? So instead, they're getting the ideas fed to them, and it may be keywords they're not even thinking about. So it's giving them ideas that it may have taken them hours to come to eventually. So a number of ways that we're doing that, and then ultimately, embracing a platform like Cherwell where you've got a codeless configuration so that we can make that transition from AI-driven notifications to AI-driven automations, where we can just continually do small improvements but see huge gains. And I kind of call it, change a little, learn a lot, change a little, learn a lot, and steadily improve my utilization of AIOps to continually drive down that MTTR. Hopefully that makes sense.
Definitely, it does make sense, Ryan. And you spoke about people always pointing fingers to storage. I am looking at a bigger picture here. Look at the organizations who have complex multi-vendor support, who works with multiple service providers and deal with a tremendous amount of data. For them to make sense of all the data there in the platform and getting the valuable insights from them, having an AI-led platform integrated with your ITSM tool, I believe it's a one-shot solution.
I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Anup, I would also like to know if zero incident framework can detect these trends that comes from the multi-vendors and forecast future problems, but at the same time, it determines and prioritizes what are the issues that are the critical need of the business.
Absolutely. So that's one of the core features of the platform, where you can aggregate data from all the different vendors that's available within the ecosystem, and all of this data can be ingested into the platform. And the problems, the futuristic problems, with the help of predictive analytics, can be definitely showcased on the platform. So which helps a team to be more proactive than reactive. So that's been the core functionality of the platform.
Thank you. That was valuable, Anup. And I believe that we can definitely say that it's a great strategical investment for any organizations to have those set of systems in place, which are not only taking care of your regular running operations, but it also identifies and remediates those improvement opportunities. So, all right. So, as a final note, Ryan and Tony, would you like to share your viewpoint on AI ops helping your projects and the organizations in terms of sustaining the revenue and the growth?
Sure. I think on this, it's the key is being able to leverage a system like this to empower the business is the key. We've kind of talked about it and kind of hit on it throughout, but I think having solutions like these allow you to be more focused on just ensuring that you drive in service reliability and ensure that your systems have good, consistent uptime, and empower the business to do what they need to do. And they can't do that if the systems aren't optimally working the way that you'd expect. And I don't think there's a better way to do that across multi-vendor environments or multi-monitoring solutions and those types of things, without having very highly skilled individuals that would be staffed 24/7. And this allows you to do that with a lot better cost savings as an organization, and drives to the bottom line to improve them to be able to deliver for their end customers.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ryan, would you like to also add something to what Tony just said?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it is absolutely critical. I mean, we're seeing application stacks continually get more and more complex, which means isolating issues is only going to get harder as we move forward. Not to mention, if you think about it, more and more of those stacks are outside the control of traditional IT. It's now, you know, it may be a partner that's providing an API. It could be a PaaS or SaaS platform
Right.
that I have no access to. So I need that improved insight. And you know, what I would also add to that is you know, really think about your metrics going into something like this. You know, one of the things we advocate is when you have when you reach the point where you start doing a zero-touch automated remediation, make a user account for your AI platform and assign those tickets so you can have a long-term metrics to see how often is this actually remediating the issue and alleviating my needs. So a year from now, I can go back and measure what was the success of this and build off that success. Because where I see a lot of organizations struggle is they kind of they throw out the tool without thinking about how do we measure success of this. A year goes by and then they start asking people, well, are you using it? No, I'm not, so why should we renew it? So it's something you want to measure from the beginning, so you've got some concrete metrics to go to the business to go, look, this is successful, let's build on this, let's expand on this. Okay.
Definitely, and it happens a lot of times. People are not even aware of what all applications do I have, what all servers do I have in my systems, and who are the people who are actually using it. It comes like they are managing their infrastructure really well, they are managing their applications really well, but they're unsure what is happening at the ground there.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so this is fantastic. I have thoroughly enjoyed gaining from your experiences and the valuable insights, and how we can really supercharge our normal IT operations to a predictable, reliable, and more sustainable AI-led operations management. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists. I'm going to bring up another poll question now on the screen for the audience to answer. Okay. So the question is, where is your organization in IT ops data insights? Is it reactive with event correlation and log forensics? Is it multiple metric store silos? Or is it an algorithm relationship driven platform? So let us wait for a couple of seconds. You can put in your responses there. Let me repeat the question. Where is your organization in IT ops data insights? Is it a reactive one without any event correlation and log forensics? It is multiple metric store silos, or it is an algorithm relationship driven platform? All right, let us see the answers. Okay, so 50% of our audience has responded that they are in a reactive phase, whereas the rest of the audience is between multiple and algorithm relationship driven. I would say that any enterprise, even that is a big or one, but all the smart enterprises of today should be driven by data analytics and state-of-the-art data solutions. So, all right, so moving further, this brings up to the end of our discussion. Let us begin the demo of Zero Incident Framework, post which we will have questions and answer round for a couple of minutes from where you can ask the questions to the panel and they will respond. I will take to Anup. Over to you, Anup. You can start the demo, please.
Thank you, Gauri. So this is a platform, the Zero Incident Framework, which is the AI-ops platform, which is driving organizations to move from a reactive to proactive state. So as part of this short demo, I would just focus on a couple of use cases to give a glimpse as to how this has been helping the IT organization. So this particular screen here is typically a data aggregator where all the data from the different monitoring tools have been ingested into this platform, and it aggregates all the data points into this. So no matter what monitoring tool is there across the different layers of the infrastructure, all of those can be ingested into this platform. And as soon as they're ingested into the platform, the correlation engine picks them up and tries to find out the pattern within those data points and tries to get to the root cause of the problem. So the MTTR, which Tony spoke about, the mean time to resolve an issue, is instantly identified, which helps the team to really narrow down to the root of the problem and then assign it to the right person. So here, this particular screen here, which showcases all the correlated alerts from different tools, from different applications, from different devices, and the root cause typically gets listed on the top, from where they can actually see what is the root cause that needs to be resolved, and that can be assigned to a technician also. So apart from that, there are a few other information that also gets displayed on the system, like the accuracy of the correlation. So this is where it actually gives the confidence for the IT operations team whether this platform is truly learning or is it not learning. So because of the unsupervised learning capabilities that's been built into the platform, this metrics actually helps them to understand whether the platform has been learning or not. And from here, we can export the data into the ITSM tool, which will actually, where you can actually integrate with any of your ITSM tools. And the data points from ZIF can be exported into those tools or into any messaging platforms or into any calling platforms as well. And here is the option that we were talking about during the presentation, the suggested technician or the intelligent triaging that happens, which typically tells who would be the best fit technician to resolve such issues. And if assigned to that technician, what would be the resolution time that he or she would take in order to resolve such issues also. And this platform also ties to the business impact, because in today's world, every IT service or device or an application or an appliance that's there in the infrastructure is there because it has to service some business service or a business application. And what's the priority or the impact for that particular business application because of these correlations is what gets depicted here. So with all these data-driven metrics, the IT operations team is now much more equipped to take much more informed decision based on the data rather than just working out of SOPs. And now identifying the real root cause, the point that Ryan made of passing the ball really has gone out of the window. So they really know who needs to fix it and who needs to be assigned to really get this issue, resolution done. So that's about the reactive side of it, where we actually have alerts generated and then the correlation happening. From the proactive or the predictive analytics capability perspective, this screen here talks about the various prediction opportunity cards that have been created within the platform. And there are metrics. I mean, there are 3 swim lanes here, and the cards gets populated here based on this metric, which says estimated time to impact. So all these are events which are going to happen. All of these are futuristic events and not the ones that's currently happening in the infra layer. So now these are futuristic events which could be letting us know there is going to be a potential failure in an application or a device, or there's going to be some performance degradation in the application or device. So that's the opportunities that gets created here, and it tells us how long is it going to take to have that impact. And if it gets impacted, how many business process, how many applications, how many services are going to get impacted also. So now the IT operations team, rather than working on a war foot, they can actually, they really have information beforehand, which tells them that what's going to fail in the near future. And now they can take appropriate action. They can trigger automation workflows from here, or they can actually have somebody look into it manually as well. And when they click on that, each of these cards, there are, again, unsupervised multivariate algorithms that's running, which tries to identify what is the root cause of this particular incident that's going to happen in the future. And it'll tell you when it's going to happen also, right? So all of this is what this particular application zero incident framework brings to the table for the IT operations team. And there is a canvas-based dashboard which can be built where the users can actually add any widgets to it. They can see what's going around across their application in a single pane, and they can also get to see various statistical information which will help them to gauge how they have been performing over a period of time as well. So that's how the zero incident framework platform has been designed and developed. This is a very short and focused demo on very few use cases that this platform's capabilities, where we have used leveraged a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. So yeah, so that's about the demo for the audience, Gauri.
Thank you so much, Anup. That was really helpful. I certainly believe that our audience will definitely gain something from that. And let us now start taking up a few of audience questions. I will take a few of the questions here from the which you have posted in the chat window. All right, so the one question that we have is, what are the typical ITSM activities that can be automated? Ryan, would you like to answer that, please?
Yeah, certainly. So one, we have the obvious, which is remediation at the incident level. So an event comes in, website's not responding, based off the AIOps history of similar events, we know we can go restart IIS, for example. So that could be an automated possibility. Another area would be change and release management. So automating the actual implementation of those changes and those releases as well as workflows around that, like notifications, updating of documentation, things like that. There's also other opportunities. So if we think about the SecOps world, so automating vulnerability management. So, automatically taking certain types of vulnerabilities that we've identified, bundling those into an appropriate change request, for example, for patching those systems, or it could be scenarios where we need to do configuration changes. We need to roll out locking down a certain number of ports to make sure that a vulnerability can't be taken advantage of. I'd also think about it from a risk management perspective. So ongoing automated audits of my environment that's also producing evidentiary data that I can take to an auditor. That's another common example. So there's a lot of potential use cases around this. One other area that I think I could see us moving toward in the future, and that is proactive outreach to my customers. So, taking customers that we've identified have consistently been hitting the service desk, maybe their laptop is just a lemon. Let's identify those candidates, and rather than waiting for them to call into the service desk with their 20th call of the month, why don't we use those algorithms to go, what, why don't we get ahead of this? Let me go ahead and replace that laptop. Let me get you something better that's going to be more reliable, and thereby reduce the volume of contacts. Not to mention, at the same time, improving my customer satisfaction ratings, if you think about it, because I'm getting out in front of them. And then the lastly is by being able to also associate my applications to the customers that are entitled for use of those. And what I mean by that is, AIOps identifies that my CRM platform has a performance degradation. Not only route that to the appropriate team, but why don't we automate understanding that the 30 members of my sales force are the primary consumers of those services. So let's reach out to them and let them know ahead of time we've identified there's a performance degradation. We're working on it. Based off ZIF, we know that it's going to take us about 27 minutes to resolve on average. Bear with us. Hey, I just prevented at least 20 tickets from coming into the system.
Right.
Not to mention, they look at it as, oh, IT actually reached out to me and told me ahead of time rather than waiting for me to call into the service desk. So, that's just one other idea among who knows how many that we could leverage these kinds of automations.
Definitely. Thank you, Ryan. You did speak about risk management and security aspects, which is very different from the normal incident handling. When people speak about automating stuff in AI, through AI in the operations, they only speak about, incident management and restrict themselves with there. But here we spoke about a lot of various opportunities that are ahead in front of us, which actually makes IT not a service provider, but a value-driven partner to the organization.
Absolutely.
Tony, would you like to add something to what Ryan has mentioned? Any other spaces where ITSM can and AI can bring value to the ITSM?
Actually, I think Ryan hit the nail pretty much on the hammer with, hit it right on and has the correct answer for what I think you can do from a leverage point of view.
Thank you. All right, so we have a next question that with AI in place, how quickly can we see business outcomes? Anup, would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. So with the implementations that we have done with multiple industries and multiple infrastructure, different types of infrastructure, we have actually seen benefits being, the outcomes being visually displayed on the dashboard for the enterprises. Anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks, they start to see good amount of business outcomes. So I would say 3 to 4 weeks is a good time to start seeing real good benefits if it's been implemented, or if the platform is actually offering real, true artificial intelligence.
All right, thank you, Anu. And I thank you all the other speakers as well. With this, we conclude our today's session. And I hope that you did enjoy as much as I did listening to our esteemed set of panelists on their knowledge and the experiences on AIOps and service management. With attending this webinar, you will be eligible for a 45-day free trial of ZIF Business Express, a short POC with one-click installation. And you can visit our website for any other additional information that you need on Zero Incident Framework, www.zif.ai. Would you have any other queries? You can write to us at inquiry@zif.ai. I would also request the attendees to fill up the survey that you will receive shortly after the end of the session. And so this is me, Gauri, signing off for today, and we will see you at our next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.